Hi, I'm Kati Roberts. I attend New Life Gladstone, and I'm going to present the Matthew overview. So imagine the delight of getting a long, newsy letter from a dear friend that you haven't heard from in a long time. That's the situation that the Israelites find themselves here in the opening of Matthew. God had stopped speaking to Israel through his prophets 400 years earlier, and that was the way that they were used to interacting with God. And here in Matthew, God speaks after a 400-year silence. All throughout the Old Testament, God has sent prophet after prophet for the purpose of revealing who he was to his people. And though the Israelites, for the most part, didn't listen to those messages, God doesn't give up. He doesn't send another proxy. He sends his own son. This wasn't just a letter to his people. This was a personal visit from the king himself. Jesus was God's message to his people, the people that he loved so much. As a tax collector, Matthew was one in a long line of unlikely candidates to be trusted with this message. Unlikely though he may be, Jesus had a special position for Matthew. He used this outcast sinner to accomplish his purpose for a dying world. Matthew was going to herald that the rescuer had come. Jesus has a special position for us in his plan as well. No matter how questionable our qualifications are, he has a special position for us too. Matthew is a book that reveals Jesus. Jesus is the message of this book. He is Emmanuel, God with us. He is a living, breathing representation of who God is. And through Jesus' life, we get a graphic visual of what it really means that he is with us always. Through this book, 4 beautifully interwoven themes emerge. 1, Jesus' miraculous signs and wonders. 2, Jesus' teachings about the heart. 3, Jesus' prophecies and fulfillment of Scripture. And 4, Jesus' submission to his Father. The first theme, Jesus' miraculous signs and wonders. In these verses where he displayed these miracles, he healed many lives and performed many miracles. Though his greatest miraculous sign of all was the biggest and best, his resurrection. He has power even over his own death. The second theme, Jesus' teaching about the heart. A large portion of Matthew is dedicated to his teachings. And in his instruction, he repeatedly returns to dealing with our hearts. He reiterates over and over that God looks at the heart and that our motivations matter. He tells us what's on the inside shows on the outside. His promise is that we'll be blessed when our inner life is a godly one, and that an inner godly life is revealed through a godly outward life. Though the opposite of that promise is true as well. If our hearts are hard and living for self, no matter how good our deeds are, they count against us. He wants our hearts, what we love and live for, to be fully his. The third theme that we see is Jesus' prophecies and fulfillment of Scripture. All throughout this book, he foretold the future, his own and ours. He encourages us to be ready and watching for his return. Confirming the surety of the prophecy of his second coming is all the Old Testament scriptures that fulfill his first coming. Those scriptures that have been foretold about the Messiah point so specifically to Jesus that it's clear that the Messiah had come. And since Matthew was writing to mainly a Jewish audience, they would have recognized those verses and been even more convinced of the faithfulness of God to his prophecies. The fourth theme we see is Jesus' submission to his Father. He showed us what a right heart looks like. He taught us through his actions that a godly inner life is a submitted heart. His heart was submitted to his Father in intense difficulty and deprivation, in consistently ministering even after rejection, in heartbreak, and enduring opposition from the religious leaders, continually presenting the truth to them even though they approached him in unbelief. And the greatest act of submission of all time in the garden, knowing the pain and shame and separation that his Father was calling him to, he still submitted his own will to his Father's. Matthew concludes with this sweet promise from his heart to ours. And behold, I'm with you always, even to the end of the age. God so wanted to be known. He was willing to enter this sinful, dirty world, subjecting himself to diapers and dirt, so that it would leave no doubt that he'd be willing to enter our world. He came, he's here, and he's coming again.